let's start by introducing Helena Briggs, class of 2019. She majored in philosophy and was a member of the volleyball and basketball teams at Christendom. She also served on SAC as junior class president and student body president. Shortly after graduation, she served as a missionary with Catholic Sports in Alexandria to build young adult community through recreational sports. Upon finishing her time with Catholic Sports, she decided to pursue her lifelong dream of becoming a firefighter and EMT and help save lives in the front lines as a first responder. She joined the Fairfax County Fire and Rescue Department in 2023 and is serving as a firefighter in Springfield. She hopes to attend paramedic school in 2025. Helena still spends lots of her free time playing sports, hiking, and being on her paddleboard any chance she can get. I will also say, fun fact, Helena is our only returning Life on Tapper who is coming here with a completely different career industry. So she came, gosh, you were one of the first people that came back when we started doing this format in probably 2021, maybe?
I think it's 2020.
Yeah.
Or 2021, I don't know.
To talk about being a missionary with Catholic Sports. So give her a round of applause, welcome her. Okay, and next we have Nate Scanlon, class of 2022. He graduated from Christendom, majoring in philosophy as well. During his time at the college, Nate kept busy with classes and extracurriculars, including basketball, soccer, and was also the student body president, and participated in SAC. After graduation, he worked in construction while starting the application process for the fire department. In March of 2023, he started in the Prince William County Fire and Rescue Academy. He graduated just this past September?
Yep.
Sorry?
Oh, no,
this
sorry,
last September.
I wrote this before September.
You wrote this before, yes.
My mistake, sorry.
In September of 23, with certifications as an EMT, Firefighter 1, Firefighter 2, and Hazmat Operations. We'll need you to explain what those are at some point.
Yeah.
Nate was assigned to Fire and Rescue Station 515 in Haymarket, where he has been working as a firefighter and continuing to learn the skills of the trade. Nate lives in Front Royal and keeps active by playing sports in his free time. So, wonderful. Give him a round of applause. Welcome him.
We're like twins. Oh wait, you actually already have one.
I actually have a twin, yeah, but yeah, it's true.
Okay, so we always like to start off by asking what got you to this career that you're in now. So tell us about your journey to becoming a firefighter.
Yeah, becoming a firefighter was kind of always the plan, and I knew I wanted to go to college. So I was like, well, I'll go to Christendom. I knew I was interested in philosophy, and I was like, well, I'll get a degree in philosophy, and then I'll pursue firefighting after that. So that has kind of been the idea of what I wanted to do ever since high school, really.
Okay.
As to how I got into it, it's a weird thing to start because you just start basically Googling how do you join a fire department, and then from there you find the very lengthy application process that takes a minimum of 6 months.
Really?
Yeah, or
okay.
if not a year, and depending on how many recruit schools places are doing, it can take years to get in.
Mm-hmm.
I was fortunate; it only took me 6 months because everyone's hiring right now.
Okay.
You hear that? We're hiring.
Yes, everyone's hiring.
Everyone's hiring.
Yes, and it's been that way for a few years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. I would love to come back to the application process to
Yeah,
give us
sure.
a little
Yeah.
bit more nitty gritty. But
It's extensive.
Yeah, it is.
tell us how you ended up there.
So my journey was not as clear cut as I didn't always know that this was the plan after college. From a young age, actually, I think it was probably when I was in 7th grade. I remember telling one of my best friends, I think I want to be a firefighter or a cop, one of those two. They're I could see that, Helena. But after college, I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do. I kind of dabbled in a bunch of things. In the back of my mind, I knew that I really wanted to go into something medical, something really in the front lines in a way that I could be serving people in a very active way. And I like high risk, kind of fast paced environments that are a little stressful because I don't know, it's exciting. And I think that, I don't know, I think acts of service, being on SAC, and it's kind of an example, I just knew that I wanted to do something that was going to be serving people in the most like tangible way and with my hands. So I really, after I graduated college, I felt God calling me to become a missionary, and that kind of put I guess a delay in my application to become a firefighter. But once I finished up with that, all these doors kind of opened up for me to apply, and it's actually kind of funny. I would say I kind of happened upon the department that I looked for. I was actually applying to be a police officer for Alexandria City at the same time as I was applying for Fairfax County. But I did the same thing. I just kind of Googled around. I was like, where's hiring right now? And I saw Fairfax County they had application process open. But I didn't know that they are one of the best. Prince William and like Loudoun County and Fairfax are some of the best in the state. And for some reason or another, I came in at a really good time because it took me only 2 months to get through the entire application process.
That is crazy.
Wow.
And part of the reason was because my job at the time as a missionary was super flexible. I was able to get in on all the application milestones. You have to do a polygraph, you have to do a written test, a physical exam, a psychological exam. All these different steps you have to schedule out, and there are hundreds of other people applying to do the same thing. But I told them, like, I had a flexible job. If anyone cancels, I'll jump in on it. So I did, and got through it in about 2 months.
Good for you.
It was a very fast process. But for me, it was kind of a confirmation that the Lord was like opening doors for it to happen. This was kind of His will for me.
Sure. Okay. So let's go back to the application process. Give us a little bit more information on it. You're saying that sometimes it can take a whole year to go through. And then also, where does the training come in? Is it like you have to go through the application process, you're accepted, and then you start training?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to hear about the application and the training.
You get hired, and then you start recruit school or the fire academy, which is it's a whole thing in of itself. But just getting there, the application process. For me, a lot of what took so long was just how spaced out the things were, the different parts of it. There were I would go in, take the first thing was a written test. Went in, took a written test, passed that, and then they were basically wait for the next email for the next step, which was the physical test,
the CPAT,
the CPAT, which I wasn't even able to schedule for another month. Then after that, you have to do the medical, which takes a couple of months to schedule. There were all these steps in between. And I was fortunate too that my boss was actually a former firefighter in Prince William County, funnily enough, and he was super helpful and just let me take off pretty much any day. I would wait a month, have no word, and then I would get an email that was like, "Can you come in next Tuesday for this thing?" And I would be like, "Hey boss, is it cool if I take off next Tuesday to potentially leave this job?" And he was
Potentially leave.
and he was fortunately he was cool with that. And so that's why it took a long time. Yeah, the written test wasn't really hard compared to what was in the academy. Same with the physical. The CPAT is nothing compared to what the academy is.
Sure.
The psychological examination was, for me, just 1,000. Literally, 1,000
bubble questions.
Yeah, bubble questions, like the Myers-Briggs type test, but it takes 5 hours because there's so many questions.
See, I've trained you all. You've already had to do the Myers-Briggs.
Yeah.
Now, tell me, do you prepare for the written test? Is this something they give you a book and say, this is what's going to be on it?
No, they didn't really give us any indication of what is on the written test. It was a lot of basic math, kind of common sense, I can't even remember, it was so long ago.
I know. Yeah.
It's basic math or reading comprehension.
Oh, I took Fairfax's and Prince William County's. I think a lot of people that go into firefighting will apply to several, I don't know if you did this, several different departments, and typically just go with whichever one offers them the first job, pretty much. The Prince William County written test, the end of it was a personality test, a personality aptitude thing, which they said was weighted more than the rest of the test. Wow. So, which
they're vetting you.
Which was kind of dumb because it was do you work well with a team? It was even if you didn't, who would say no?
Yeah, that's true.
So it was kind of to me, it was this is a silly section to even have in here. It makes sense to have the right personality, but this isn't a good way of testing it.
Right.
That was the last 30 questions or something like that on this test. So it wasn't even, even as little rigorous as, how do I say this?
Yes.
The test wasn't that hard, and not even counting that.
Yeah.
I would say the thing that you had to prepare the most for was the CPAT, which is the physical tests that you do. And you said it was pretty easy. I don't know. It was. I did well on it, but there were. Just to kind of give an indication of what it is like, it's about like this 10-minute physical test where you do these exercises that simulate like firefighting activity or like movements and stuff.
Yep.
So they put on a 50-pound weighted vest on you, and then you wear like a helmet and gloves, and then you start off with the Stairmaster. You have to go on the Stairmaster for 3 minutes, and you can't touch the handrails or else like you're out.
Which is the hardest part.
I was one of the last people to go, and of all like the 5, there was like 10 guys who went in front of me. Only like 2 of them passed that.
Wow.
So I was like, "There's no way I'm gonna do this." But I'm like I said, I'm a big hiker.
Okay.
That made a huge difference, and I think like if you're somebody who's active and you do a lot of hiking and stuff, you're gonna be set because everything else is after that is pretty easy. But then they had this whole like coordinated, simulated like course where you have to carry like a chainsaw and a rotary saw, and then you have to raise up a ladder and then crawl through this maze. It's like all these things that you'll eventually do in the academy more, but it's just part of like the standardized testing. But that would be that is something that I think a lot of people do fail out in the application process. So being able to be physically ready for that and like doing certain workouts and certain I guess activities that kind of build your endurance and your strength for that is helpful. And it's just only going to get you more prepared for the academy when you start.
Yes, yes. I don't mean to say it was necessarily easy, but it was the expectation for the CPAT, at least in Prince William County, is a lot lower than the expectation for the recruit school. Like there was like day one of recruit school, and there were a lot of people that were like, "This is not for me."
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because of the physical demands, all of a sudden like raise like 3 notches. You can pass the CPAT and be like, "Oh, I can do this," and then you get to recruit school, and all of a sudden they're like, "You can't, run up and down this tower a bunch of times," and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so tell us more about the training. Once you got accepted and you passed all of those different things, then tell us about the academy. Do you think it was the same?
I don't know what your academy was like.
Yes, I don't know. That's a good
Okay,
question.
this is good.
So I can start. So actually, the first half of our academy, we started with EMT school. So I don't know if that was the case for you all.
Yeah, same.
We spent the first 8-10 weeks in EMT crash course, which was like very intense. I don't know. That's a very, very quick amount of time to be certified as an EMT. But that was, to give an idea of like what the academy was like, we had to get there at like 5 o'clock in the morning. We would have to like make sure all of our chores and our gear was all like set up, and then we would be in class all day long. In class for us, I don't know if this is for you all, we didn't really have a lot of it wasn't a lot of lecture style classroom. It was all like scenarios and like skill based. So like they'd be teaching you the skills and then putting it into a scenario. And that was how they taught us to be like EMTs, because it was like, let's make this as lifelike as possible. And you have to like treat this patient. All right, what do you see as what's their immediate like need? What are their vital signs? Try to like
assess the situation.
Patient assessment is so huge. I don't know if any of you all have heard of like patient assessments, but that's something that they drill into us.
Deal, yeah.
But it was also like a lot of like stress training. Like it's stressful kind of going into a situation where you don't know if you're knocking on somebody's door and you don't know if they're armed or they are hostile or just all this stuff. But that was what the first like half of our training was like. The second half, I don't know if it was like you guys, suppression school was just... Fire suppression school is basically what they called it for us. EMT school and then fire school. Suppression was, I think that was the last 3 or 4 months of just very demanding, grueling training exercises where they would go each week or two, they'd go through a different
like
topic,
type of skill.
They started us off with SCBA training, which SCBA is our self-contained breathing apparatus. Think of like scuba, but minus the underwater part.
Okay.
That's the face masks and the air tanks that we wear. But they did a whole lot of training of like breathing and like confined space training, where they pretty much test your limits on if you are claustrophobic or not. Yeah. And they would teach us how to manage our breathing if our air is cut out. So we had to like learn to train our lungs, train our brain to not freak out, so as to like lose all the rest of our oxygen when we are basically at like zero. I don't know. It was pretty intense. That was probably part of the hardest part of recruit school for me, was that mental training. But the rest of the weeks were like, we'd have a week dedicated to hoses, a week dedicated to ladders. I don't know if you want to go into a little bit more of like suppression school for you all. Yeah, no, ours is all along the same lines, pretty much. They actually put SCBA week before EMT for Prince William County, because so many people quit or fail out during SCBA week that they're like, we're not going to bother teaching you how to be an EMT if you that's really smart.
If you can't go through a confined space. So it's like, so you're also doing it when you're brand new to recruit school and you're trying to figure everything else out, and then all of a sudden you're like, you can't breathe or whatever. And we have a maze. You guys have a maze for all the confined space. It's like it's a shipping container that's divided into 3 levels, and you're
completely blacked out.
You can't see anything.
You're on air, and you have to like get yourself in and out. It's like an adult Chuck E. Cheese maze, but you can't see anything, and you're freaking out that you're going to run out of air.
And our instructors were in the maze, and they'd be messing with your life, with your pack, with your SCBA. So like they'd like turn it off, and you have to turn it on in the right like procedures. You have to follow the right procedures, otherwise you'd fail. And you can see all the twice you get kicked out. It was pretty intense.
Yeah. So how long until you get to be the one that turns it off and messes with other people?
Oh, I've already started doing that. I basically was able to go back. I go back to the academy often and help them instruct.
That's fun.
Awesome.
Which is,
it's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. It's nice being on the other side of it. But you kind of realize, it was a little bit more afterwards that I realized that all of the training in the academy is, both the EMT and the suppression school, was really just a big like training in like stress management, how to handle yourself and keep yourself under control when you're faced with a lot of stress. Because you deal with that when you're going to a medical emergency, or when you're going to a burning building. Like, you have to be able to operate and go back to the muscle memory of all the reps and sets that you've done to know exactly what to do in those moments. Because if you don't go through that training, you're just going to be like, I don't know what to do.
On both sides of it, when you're in some scenario where there's something on fire, or there's somebody in front of you, there's somebody having a medical emergency, like major trauma, and you need to deal with it properly, and you need to rely on your training. So it really is, it cuts both ways. So the 2 hats you wear as a EMT and a firefighter.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about your day-to-day, and talk to us about your schedule, because I know firefighters have interesting schedules.
I think you guys are on the Nova schedule too, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so we have like the same kind of schedule.
Okay.
It's 24 hours on, then, we work 24-hour schedules, but like three off and on days.
How you describe this, because there's no good way of describing it.
I know, it's really hard to explain. It's 3 off and on days of 24-hour shifts, and then you're off for 4 days after that. So in a given week, for example, I just worked, I worked, wow, what day is it today? I never know what day of the week it is.
Me neither.
I worked Friday, Sunday, and Tuesday, and then I have the next 4 days off.
Just try to keep track of what day you have to go to Mass.
I know.
Otherwise, you have no
it's
semblance
really
of
easy to
what
forget.
day of
I've
the week
almost
it is.
forgotten many times.
Okay.
I haven't actually, but yeah, think of it as like you do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then you're off for 4 days.
Right.
Then the next week it'll be Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, and then you're off for 4 days.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's like a lot of work. You work 72 hours in 2 days. In 5 days.
Yeah.
And then you have 4 days off. So it's a weird mix of like you're working all the time for like a normal 5-day work week, and then you have 4 days off, and
you have like a long weekend every week, which is so nice.
Yeah, it is nice. Yeah.
You can go on trips. You can, I don't know, just really relax a lot, or do some fun things.
And you all know your schedule far in advance?
Yep.
Yeah, I can look into the next several years, because it's just it's just a rotating schedule.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, where are you in your shift right now?
I'm about to start
Tomorrow?
The tour, yeah, tomorrow.
Oh, you're at C shift.
Yeah, C shift. You worked yesterday, so
I'm
you're
an A
on
shift,
yeah.
So what do you all do in your free time? Like, are you resting on those off days during the block of time that you're working, or is it like you're pursuing something, and then how are you spending your time the long weekends?
I always go home and nap every single time. It's tough not to.
Yeah.
If I don't take a nap, I'm just dead the whole day. Like I can't I can't get
Yeah,
it's
that was
impossible.
me today. I did not actually get
Yeah.
a nap after coming off the shift, and I was
Yes, the whole day feels weird.
basically a shell of a human.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
glad
I think any day that is like the in-between days between shifts is a hardcore rest and like recuperation, because you've just been working 24 hours where a lot of adrenaline, like every time you get a call, like your adrenaline like goes pumping, and then you go through highs and lows of when you're on call or getting a call, then you're sitting and resting on a call. It's just like really physically exhausting, even if you're not running fires all the time. It's just being up and running like that.
And even what sleep you do get at the station, because you get calls during the night, things like that. So
It's
you
very
might be
interrupted.
up all night. You might get interrupted, but even the sleep you do get is low quality sleep, because the
Yeah.
whole time you're kind of expecting the lights to turn on and the tones to drop, and you have to get up and go do whatever it is you have to go do.
Tones drop, that means the alarm
yeah.
goes off.
Yeah, yes, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
When the tones drop, yeah.
Yeah.
I had to learn that.
I'm
Once
sure
I
there was a
joined.
lot to learn. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, there's still so much learning.
Yeah.
Okay, so how is your day spent? I mean, it sounds like it's kind of unpredictable, but give us like recently.
Like the days we're on shift, we're at work.
Yes.
Pretty much, there's a lot of variability, but between stations and like at what shift you're on at Prince William County, but they're all kind of structured around like there's a meal or there's a shift change at 6 a.m.
Okay.
6 a.m. you get there, you change shift with the previous shift. They take all their stuff off the rig, off the engine, the fire engine. You put all your stuff on. You check everything out, like every piece of equipment on it. You recheck your SCBA, all your medical bags. Like you make sure everything's good to go. And then there's breakfast followed by like some free time.
Okay.
And then
Potentially.
yes, potentially.
Okay.
And then but then we train typically and then from here there's kind of some variability. My crew, my station will train from like 9 to 11, 11:30 or something like that. And then
Like exercise train or train in a skill?
training is skill. So we'll like go out somewhere and pull hose lines or throw ladders or things like that. Things that like specifically my position, the bucket is the bucket firefighter would do, which is pulling hose lines and throwing ladders and stuff like that.
Okay.
We'll go out and it's typically myself and another bucket firefighter and then my lieutenant, and we'll practice things and we'll pull lines, flow water, and work on all the practical skills that we have to do, and then it's pretty much rinse and repeat for lunch, a little bit of break, train again, dinner,
Okay.
and go to bed.
And then hopefully go to bed.
All with
hopefully
calls being
Yes,
run
getting
in the middle.
interrupted.
You might get interrupted by calls.
Yeah, you have to disconnect all the hose lines and then
Yeah,
come back and
that's
pick them all
annoying.
up,
It's
and
the
it's a whole
worst.
thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now
I feel
what
like
about-
I was gonna say my schedule is very different.
Oh, really?
Okay, it's not actually
Okay.
that different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have shift change at 7, but I still get there at like 5
That's so nice.
to like.
I wish mine was at 7.
It doesn't make that much difference. I still get there at 5. I'm no longer a rookie anymore. We both just got off of probation, which
Okay.
I guess we could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just like you, we always we have to check all the equipment, make sure that everything is all there. There have been times when I've gotten to like the engine or the ambulance and stuff, and like there's something missing or there's
Yeah.
damage to the vehicle, and it's like
Oh,
that's
yeah,
something that
yeah,
needs to
yeah.
be reported to the person that you're relieving.
Yeah.
But yeah, after we have like our lineup, we have like a meeting all together. We try to do some like chores around the house, the station, around the house, the home.
Firehouse.
And then we will train for basically the rest of the morning until lunch.
Yeah.
Lunch is usually like on our own. We don't really like make a lunch together. We usually all cook dinner as a station family. We all go out to the grocery store and make dinner.
Yeah.
It's actually really
Yeah,
fun. But like immediately after dinner, that's when those who are in seniority go and take a nap.
Okay.
That's
yeah,
nap
yeah.
time for them.
Yeah.
And then that in the afternoons when we will try to go work out or something, because they always encourage everyone to work out at some point during the day. That's like an expectation for all firefighters to be staying in shape and stuff.
Yep.
And then I'll help with cooking dinner, and then I usually try to find something else to train in or study. There's always something to be studying.
Okay.
Whether you're just finishing up probation or not, like there's always something else that you're going to be certified in. Like I'm starting to work on my truck book.
What does that mean?
Okay.
So that's
Truck
so
book?
so when you first get off or graduate from the academy, at least in Fairfax County, we ride the engine for the first 3 months.
Okay.
And after we ride the engine, we drive the ambulance for the next who knows how long. I've actually been driving the ambulance for 6 months straight. Yeah, I know, it's actually really
That's
we got
tough.
another rookie who took the right bucket, so I've been confined to there. But we also have a truck at our station. So at Springfield, we have an engine truck and a medic unit, which is an ambulance.
What's the difference between an engine and a truck?
Great question.
Before you go on.
This is a great question.
Yeah.
So engine, think hoses and water. So
Yes.
that's the tank that has hundreds of gallons of water and that has all these hose lines. They will have a ladder or so on there, but they have they're the ones that are pumping water to spray water out.
Yeah.
A truck is ladders. So they have the big, if you see like a big truck that has the big ladder on the top that like extends and elevates to a building, that's a ladder truck. They store a whole bunch of tools. It's kind of a glorified toolbox, I like to
Yes,
say.
it's very
All the
much
compartments
a
around the edge
toolbox,
have all these like power tools,
Saws, tons
saws,
of saws.
hand tools, whatever. Then there's a whole bunch of ladders inside that you pull out. So that's like what their responsibilities are. Well, there's a whole list of responsibilities there. But anyway, you have to get certified to ride the truck. That's something that I'm currently working on.
Okay. Very
Yes,
good.
as I'm trying to, we're a really busy ambulance, so every day I'm driving the ambulance, and I never have time to do any training on that, so I hardly ever see my station.
Okay. So you guys answered how your day-to-day kind of looks. Tell us what you're doing in the off days really quickly. You're like 4-day.
For me, it's nothing super specific. I kind of handle all the like chores and responsibilities and errands you have to do because you don't have like you're on shift for 24 hours. So all of the things you have to do otherwise are compressed into the 4 days typically. But otherwise, I typically read a lot. I work out, go to mass. Nothing super crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, I think like especially the days immediately after a working day, I'm usually taking it a little slow. Going to mass, maybe adoration, doing all like I like to say like the domestics, like doing laundry, trying to cook meal prep for the week. Do anything around the house. Usually there's like something to do. I live with roommates, and so it's always good to kind of see them. But I usually fill a lot of my time. I feel like out in Northern Virginia, there's always like some friends doing something. I like to paddleboard. I'm really sad that it's almost the winter and I'm not gonna be able to do that for a while. But I also I really like to get friends together and like play sports. I still am involved with Catholic sports, and we still have the leagues running out there. So we have wiffle ball starting up soon, and we do that on Sundays. And then usually there's just some social thing happening. I really recharge with being around other people. So I like to see my friends, do something with my roommates, whatever chance I have to I don't know, get out and about and kind of forget about it's very easy to just have like two lives kind of going on. The days off, you're like not thinking about work, which is so nice.
Yes. Yeah.
But then you're talking to your friends. You're like, all right, I have like another life at work where like they're so completely separate, which is so nice to just have that separation. Sometimes,
Yeah, it's kind of a strange dichotomy between the two. Yeah, because when I'm at work, I'm also not thinking about anything other than work for the entirety of the time you're there. It's kind of
you can't even think about anything at home.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's kind of move to a question that I feel like we might get from students of why go through 4 years at Christendom if you're just going to go through a training outside of them, outside of the school to become a firefighter. And that goes, with any type of law enforcement, military, all that kind of stuff. What is your kind of reasoning behind that? And maybe even why are you glad that you did?
Yeah. It's a good question.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I could really say both things. There's part of me that wishes that I had joined the fire department a long time ago, just because I would be like probably a lieutenant by now. But then there's the other part of me that's, I know that I'm so grateful that I came to Christendom and that I spent the years that I did working in other areas before becoming a firefighter. And specifically like at Christendom and learning, especially majoring in philosophy, I think it really prepared me to have like a really good understanding of just like the human person. And there's a lot of people in the fire department who are not very religious at all, who don't have the greatest or a positive outlook on life. They see it as a job, and like they do have a very well-intentioned heart. They want to help people, but it's very easy for people to be very jaded, and they just see it as a job, and they lose sight of the human person that's in front of them.
Okay.
And yeah, I just think that like being someone of faith is so, like having had the like very integrated education that Christendom has, and like the faith formation, like really prepared me to like be kind of set apart in my department, because I'm very, like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm very different from everyone I work with.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Same.
Like there are other Catholics in the department, but they like of varying practices and maybe not as outspoken or anything. But I think that if I had joined the fire department probably before going to Christendom and didn't have that same kind of formation, I could be a lost sheep. Like, I feel like I could have easily been influenced by the people around me, because it is a very rough environment. People are very rough around the edges.
Yep.
There's a lot of cussing. There's a lot of just, I mean,
All sorts of stuff.
all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's a blue collar job in that way.
It's
but I'm just grateful to have like the foundation and like the core that, has like I'm very much myself, and I feel like I have, I can be, I attempt to be strong in my faith and witness to that, which I don't know, God willing, God only knows what would have happened if I hadn't gone to Christendom, but I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, I was thinking a lot of the same things. Ultimately, I'm glad I came here because I really enjoyed my time here. I also really enjoyed the education here, and that was something I wanted just for its own sake, even if it didn't help.
Yeah.
But to what you were saying, it's a lot of developing yourself as a person that you're not going to be changed by the environment that you're in. You know, you can join the fire service at 18, and it's a young age to be thrown into it's a stressful environment, but you're also around very rough people that
You'd be very easily influenced.
Yeah, I mean, I saw there were a lot of 18-year-olds in my recruit class, and they were definitely influenced by all the older guys that were in my recruit class, and they were just immediately becoming very similar to them, and whether or not it's a good idea or not.
Okay.
So.
Okay, that is very helpful. Thank you. Okay, tell us a time. I mean, you've talked about kind of the struggles with training and how hard it was, but tell us about a time that you've struggled in your job when you've been like on shift.
Yes.
And that could be a story like of an incident that happened, or like you're saying, interacting with people that are quite different from you.
Okay.
Anything like that.
Well, you make a lot of mistakes, especially when you first come out. It's there's a lot of mistakes that happen, and you're just like, I'm the rookie, and that's kind of the job of a rookie, is just kind of screw things up, and then your lieutenant will be like, you screwed that up.
You can't win as a rookie.
Yes, very much so. The learning curve is insane. Like, you go through 6 months of training, and you think you'd be prepared, and then then you get there.
Then you have a whole nother year of learning on the job. Which is like a whole nother year of academy.
Yes, very much so. You're like, I spent 6 months doing all this stuff, and I got out, and I feel like I don't know anything. Almost, so you're learning a lot, and so there's a lot of moments where you kind of have to figure stuff out. So many things that nobody thinks to really teach you in like EMT school, like you don't know how to like roll a head roll, which is just a specific way of rolling up.
They didn't teach you that?
A roll, like a towel, and somebody asks you to go do it, and you're like, I have no idea how to do that. You know what I mean? Like, I have my EMT, but that doesn't mean I know anything, pretty much. So there's a lot of that, and then there's like when you actually go on fire calls, like there was one fire call a house fire that I ran that was very far away from the road. It was like 1,200 feet set back from the main road, which means
That's a lot of hose.
That's a lot of hose. Yeah, which is far from the norm, far from the standard, and far from what we normally train for. Okay. So that means you're carrying everything you need. It was also uphill, so by the time we got up there, yeah, everybody's gassed, everybody's exhausted, and my crew was on the only hand line that could reach the house. So we ended up doing pretty much all the work. I mean, we were just outside the whole time, so we weren't really doing anything super exciting, but but we were just doing everything while everybody else just stood around pretty much. By the end of it, you're just absolutely exhausted.
Sure. But that's when the adrenaline kicks in and like gets you through some of it?
The adrenaline definitely kicks in. At some point it kind of wears off and you're like, can somebody help me move this line? It's so heavy. Yeah.
All right, tell us about your struggles.
Gosh, I didn't have any struggles.
Nice.
It's been so easy.
That's why she's at Fairfax. Yeah.
No, that's very much not true. I feel like every day is a struggle in some way, shape, or form. I'm like, which one do I talk about, actually?
Yeah.
Well, there's like a lot. I mean, I can kind of like touch on a couple. Like, I think first of all, getting used to the schedule was a big struggle for me. Just getting used to physically what the demands were of being on shift for 24 hours and then being off. It took me a while to kind of get used to like that kind of sleep schedule, but then also adjusting to your social life to that shift schedule was actually pretty difficult for me because I all of a sudden had to be missing out on a lot of things like weddings or big events that were happening, that was hard for me. I mean, as an extrovert, it was kind of tough for me, but I think I just kind of learned to kind of accept, all right, there's going to be certain things I can go to, certain things I can't, that's fine. But okay, I guess probably the biggest struggle for me was once I actually got to the field. Actually, little long story is right out of the academy, I actually got injured. It was right before I graduated. I actually fractured my hip and I had to get surgery.
Oh my word.
So I was able to still graduate, but I graduated on crutches. I saw somebody in here with crutches earlier, and I had a lot of sympathy. I was on crutches for months. I didn't really use them very well, but I feel your pain. But it was a pretty significant injury. They had to put in some screws that are still there, and I graduated in June of last year, June of 2023, and I didn't make it to the field until November, which is actually after you.
Wow.
So I haven't even been in the field for a whole year, but those 6 months, so I wasn't actually in the field yet, were a pretty big struggle for me. Just being injured in general, especially when you're an athlete and you've experienced twisted my ankle or something, I can't play, whatever. It felt like that, but like on steroids. I can't do my job. So that was like really tough, like emotionally, mentally, just a little bit. But a lot of the struggle was really building back the strength to be able to get back into firefighting shape. And so once I did get to the field, I was pretty behind. Not just on the skills, like it had been 6 months since I had thrown a ladder. It had been 6 months since I had pulled hose lines or even done a lot of like search drills or anything. And so, for several months, and even to this day, like I still kind of struggle with it, but not very much. The first few months was tough, really gaining back the motor skills, just the muscle memory of. I made a lot of mistakes to begin with, and they gave me some grace because they're like, we know you're coming off of light duty, but it was very frustrating for myself. And I was really hard on myself because I was like, I know that I can do these things. I know I'm strong enough, but I physically can't do them because I was injured. So that's not like a typical struggle for everyone because, I mean, I guess if someone was in the same boat, but...
Did you get injured on the job, like during training?
It was a stress fracture from training, Okay. And I remember doing specific things that, I mean, in the academy, we're wearing our SCBA air pack and gear like all day long, which is a lot of weight. Like that's, I don't know, it's 60 or 70 pounds.
You guys have Scott? We have
packs? Scott. Are you MSA? Yeah. We're getting MSAs.
Oh, really?
Next year,
Nice. They're heavier, so good luck.
Really?
Yeah, they're a little bit heavier.
Okay.
Well, and like percentage of your body weight.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm a stomach frame person. They're all the same
that's
size, and you wear the air packs around your hip.
Yeah.
And like that's where a lot of the weight goes.
Yep.
So if you're going up and down stairs, carrying loads and stuff. Like if you're carrying like a hose bundle and some other tools, you're carrying over 100 pounds of weight. Just your
it's
poor little
brutal.
body.
Yeah,
It's like that's
it's a lot,
2/3 of my weight.
Yeah.
Right there.
Or you're dragging a 200-pound dummy or something
Yeah,
like that.
you do it, you're expected to be able to lift that. And I just think, a lot of that impact and a lot of that repeated stress was just too much for my little frame.
Yes.
But
here you are.
But here I am. And there were a lot of other women who were in the same boat as me who did it just fine. And so I kind of wondered, I was like, God, why did I get injured? I think I just overdid it. Like I know I pushed myself to past my limits.
Yeah.
That's probably what happened. But yeah, those are my kind of struggles.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's been the most exciting or like proudest moment of the experience so far?
A few months ago, we went we got punched out for a code, which is somebody having a heart attack and they're no longer breathing.
Okay.
And it was a 28-year-old male, and we got him back, which that was really cool. We've gotten a lot of, like, I've worked other codes and done other CPR is kind of the most, like, one of the most intense and involved medical calls you can run.
Okay.
And we've gotten other ones back, but he was one that we got back, and he was like walking around again, which that was really cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was really rewarding. I was like, that dude's alive now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's crazy. Literally raising.
Yeah. I mean, draw what implications you
Yeah.
make for.
Dang.
What about you?
I was gonna say the same thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
Same
running
dude,
a
actually.
yeah,
Funnily
we
enough.
had the same call.
Yeah. You
No.
walked right into Fairfax and then died again.
Yeah. No, I haven't had somebody that young, fortunately.
Yeah.
But I've run a bunch of CPRs with people who are older, who have passed away. They're probably like 80 years old, and so like you said, it's a very intense process where someone's doing chest compressions, someone's managing the airway, their medics are pushing drugs. There's like 6 or 7 people.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a lot.
Dealing with this code, and we're trying to transport them in the in the ambulance too. So it's just very like high intense, like high stress environment.
Yeah.
But I think some of my proudest moment has probably been there have been been 2 or 3 old people that we've brought back. We got ROSC, which is return of spontaneous circulation.
Yeah. That's the goal.
I mean, that's the goal of
That's
staying alive.
Right. Staying alive. That's the goal of what we do in the pre-hospital setting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
ROSC.
try to get ROSC so that we can keep them alive as much as we can until they get to the hospital. And nothing really. I think those are kind of the moments that that feels like we're doing the most good. We're really actually saving lives in those moments. Yeah. Like there have been times when I think a lot of the times the emergency calls that we go out on are not really emergencies.
Yes.
It's like, all right, somebody's having stomach
Yes.
pain, or someone
That's
twisted their ankle or something.
right.
Which
Right.
is, wow,
Right.
this is
That's
really
a
bad.
lot of calls. Yes.
But when it's a life and death situation and you make a difference like that,
Yeah,
there's no better feeling, I think, in the world.
Yeah. Those are the fun calls. I mean, even though they're sad for whoever it's happening to, but for us,
It's a little bit
those
more
are more
exciting.
fun. Yes. Yeah.
So maybe help me understand. I always thought like there was a very big distinction between when you call 911 and the firefighters are sent versus the EMTs, but you all are saying you're doing both.
Oh yeah.
You're doing both kinds of calls.
You're right. They're totally different things
Yeah.
for the most part. like they're pretty much totally distinct things, but most fire departments and like the entire country are also EMS. They're also EMTs.
Okay.
For I think a bunch of reasons. So most of the time, if somebody's a firefighter, they're also an EMT.
Okay.
There are a lot of jurisdictions that have them separate.
Yeah.
I think that's what the common conception is.
Yeah. I think it's the older.
It is the
that's-
older. It's
like
a
things
newer
are
thing.
tending towards what it is now, where
Yeah.
they're both combined.
Okay.
So all firefighters are trained as EMTs.
Yeah.
But not all firefighters are necessarily paramedics, which is paramedics
Yep.
is like the next step above EMT.
Yeah.
That's what I
Aspire to be.
You're working
aspire-
towards
Yes.
that.
Yeah, that's actually what I joined with the intention of eventually doing,
Nice,
to become a
yeah.
firefighter, EMT, to then become a paramedic. We'll
Okay.
see.
Yeah.
Maybe.
You kind of do it all.
That reminds me, you are certified as a firefighter 1, firefighter 2.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, so am I.
Yes.
Hazmat
Yeah.
operations?
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
most
So am I, yeah.
all the Nova academies, you'll come out with those same certifications,
Okay.
which Fire 1, Fire 2,
Those are like national standards.
they're all those are national standards which for this area, the distinction is not really important.
Okay.
The distinction is that if you have Fire 1, you're allowed to go into a burning building, and technically if you have Fire 2, you're allowed to boss an engine. Not that anybody with Fire 2 would.
I could not do that
We
right
could
now.
just boss an engine, but you're like legally allowed to.
Okay.
But we have enough resources in pretty much the whole state that you don't need somebody with that low of a requirement to do it.
Okay.
That's kind of built for volunteer, like places where it's just
yeah.
volunteers, and it's
Like
kind
more
of like
rural areas.
yeah, very rural areas with very low tax income, so they can't afford to pay an entire professional fire service.
Right.
In those types of areas, it is a totally different, a whole different ball game for putting out fires, because it's pretty much whatever you can get in terms of like the fire service. It'll be like one guy in one engine just doing what he can.
Sure.
Whereas in Northern Virginia, if you call 911 for a fire, you'll get like 40 people and a dozen
Yeah.
rigs and like
Whole
all
bunch, yeah.
sorts of stuff. Like
We have a lot of reresources.
yes,
Nice.
yeah.
Fairfax and Loudoun and Prince William
For
are
sure.
some of the more wealthy counties in the nation.
Yes,
So.
yeah, some of the larger, fire departments.
I live in the middle of nowhere, and so we have a volunteer fire
Yeah.
department, and so we hear the siren go off, and then we hear it again like 5 minutes later, and it's like, why is nobody helping? And so I've talked to the volunteers, and they said, well, it's because they're usually calling about a cat in a tree. Like, you know,
right.
the little things, they're like, we're not gonna rush to that. You know,
Yeah.
but if it's
Yeah.
a life or death thing, like we're on it. And so
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I feel a little better. But one of them works in Loudoun County. So he's been up there a long time, and so then he volunteers on his off days. So
Yeah.
Yes.
probably tiring. Okay, we're gonna start kind of wrapping up. I would love to kind of end on what is it that you wish you had known before you went into this, and what do students need to know? You know, think about what you wish you would have known and kind of impart that wisdom to the students, and what do they need to know if they're gonna pursue this line of work?
Yeah, something I wish I had known, which you kind of touched upon, was just how different living on shift work is. When you're living on shift work, it's like you have a lot, you end up, your free time and your work time is all like smushed together. So you have a bunch of free time,
Oh, sure.
just like you have 4 days off, and you're kind of like, okay, great, I have 4 days off. But
4 days off that nobody else is
Yes,
off. It's usually.
I'm also very extroverted, and I like to socialize and things like that. And it's like everybody else is working. Like I have Monday through Thursday off. Like I can hang out at the nights, and when it's Monday night and I don't work for 3 days, I can party. But everybody else has got to go to work in the morning and that type of thing.
Yeah.
And so you have a lot of time during the day where you like you have to be proactive to not let yourself become very like just lazing around the house, because you could just sit around all day long and not do anything.
That's what you feel like doing most of the time.
Yes, right, yep. Yeah, you need some reason to kind of get up and go out.
Okay, so kind of going in with that expectation of your social life changing.
Yeah, knowing that you're going to be missing a lot of stuff. And then a second thing I will say too is kind of like we were talking about before at the beginning, not letting yourself be changed by the environment you're in. That was something I kind of knew. I have a brother-in-law who is a firefighter in Texas. So he kind of told me that. I didn't realize how much of an active thing that needs to be.
Wow.
Like how much, like you have to be constantly aware of yourself and putting in effort to not be changed in the way you speak and the way you think and the way you do things by the people you're around, which is something I don't even think I'm particularly susceptible to anyways, and it's still something that's difficult and takes active part of yourself to fight against.
Okay, yeah. Thanks for
Well, it's
sharing
like hard because you're like living with your
Yes.
shift
Right. Yeah.
for a third of your life.
Third of your life.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's a third of your
Yeah.
year that you're staying and living at the station. So they
Yeah.
really do become like family, and you become really close to them.
Yeah.
But because of that, it's very easy to pick up their habits, like
Yeah.
like you do your siblings or your family,
Right.
Yeah,
Sure.
your friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so what do you wish you had known, and what do you think
I was
they
trying
need
to
to know?
trying to think, because I feel like I had a pretty good like perception of like, all right, what I was getting into, but this isn't really something that I'm like upset about. Like I really joined with the intention of wanting to do a lot of the EMS side of things, so like becoming EMT, doing paramedic. But something that I wish I had known more was that that's a lot of what this job is.
Yes.
I'd say about
Yep.
80 to 90% of being a firefighter
Yep.
is responding to emergency medical calls.
Yep.
So everyone thinks like, oh, you're a firefighter, you fight all these fires? I actually haven't
Yes.
fought a fire
Yeah.
since I've been a firefighter.
Yes.
Like a legit working house fire. I've had like little
Yeah.
vehicle fires or little like oven fires or some little
Small
things,
stuff.
but I haven't had like a 2-3 alarm working structure fire.
Known rescue.
And that's what everyone thinks, like, oh, you're a firefighter, you do all these things. And I'm like, no, actually, I'm really just an
Yes.
EMT.
Yep.
And my day-to-day job, I like actually joke about this. My day-to-day job is I drive the ambulance every day, and I have since March. And so my joke is like, I'm not really a firefighter, I'm just a professional medical chauffeur.
Yes.
Because that's all I do. Like, what's
Yes.
your job? I'm
Yep.
a chauffeur.
Especially in an ambulance. Yeah.
It's a free, a taxi service sometimes.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with that. Like I like doing the EMS side of things. I also really do like the suppression. Like whenever I am on the engine, it's like, woo, this is exciting.
Yes.
And I do enjoy driving. My hope is to become a paramedic and then become an engine driver, so I can do a little bit of both. So like being a dual hat. But that's just like I think I had to kind of reframe my mind about the job because it is so much, at least in Fairfax County, because there's like I don't remember how many millions of people. It's like 2 million people in Fairfax County.
Wow.
It's a lot. It's a very high concentration, but you're going to be running medical calls, car accidents more than you're going to be running fires, and I'm okay with that. But that's just the expectation. That's like something I had to retrain my mind about. But yeah,
That's a good answer.
Now to you all. What questions do you all have?
Cool questions.
Hold on, Sunny. Sunny does not have her microphone yet. Erin is bringing it down.
Your craziest calls.
I know. I'm curious.
Oh,
just
yeah,
the-
we should.
Just the,
We could share that.
yeah.
Do you want to share one really quickly while we're waiting?
I
for
had
the
a
next
crazy
Go
call
ahead.
actually this morning. Was that this morning?
Yes. That is
Today's
also.
Wednesday.
It was at one.
A
It was like
big
1
part of
o'clock
this.
this morning.
Okay.
Last night, this morning. It's been raining and stuff, and
Yeah.
my station is really close to the Beltway in Northern Virginia, and there was this couple that was driving on the road, and they hydroplaned, and their truck just like smashed on the wall, and the truck was just obliterated. They actually walked out fine, but the car was
Destroyed.
It was destroyed, and it was blocking lanes of traffic. And if you weren't paying attention, and you know how when you're driving at night and it's wet and you can hardly see the lines.
Yeah.
It was really scary because like you'd be driving and all of a sudden there's this truck there. So we had to block off traffic, make sure everyone could see that there was an accident. But this guy and this girl and this wasn't even that crazy, but this girl, she was probably like my age or something. She wasn't wearing her seatbelt, and her head had hit like the window, and she just was gushing blood all down.
Yes.
But she was fine. Like she wasn't in any pain. I think she was in shock.
Yes.
She was very much in shock, but she was like able to walk
Had some more
into the
experiences.
ambulance. And then the other guy, I guess her boyfriend or something, he only had one leg. So we had to
start
like,
with.
we had
Prior to. Yeah.
to
Yeah,
start
and
with. He was holding his prosthetic. It's not really that funny, but it is funny.
Little
But
bit of different
he got kind of
story.
banged up, but he was wearing his seatbelt, so he wasn't as bad. But we had to take both of them in the ambulance because there were no
Yeah.
other transport units, and that's usually kind of like iffy because you have
Yes,
to
yeah.
you want to bring one patient per transport. But this girl was bleeding out so much. Like we were able to bandage her up, but she like, oh, this poor girl.
Yeah.
We were able to control the bleeding and rush her to the hospital. Luckily, we were really close to Fairfax Hospital, but we were like, all right, just get in, we got to go.
Yeah.
But that was like one of those like really exciting, like I
Yeah.
like hopped into the front seat. I'm like, I am running with lights and sirens to get her as soon as possible. That's actually also one of my favorite things is driving lights and sirens.
Driving lights and
Whipping in and
sirens
out of
is fun.
traffic,
Yeah,
like on the
yeah.
oncoming traffic, going through the red lights, honking at everyone.
Yeah.
It's the best part of the job.
Rules don't apply.
They
to
really
you.
don't
When-
apply.
Yeah, like
Everyone
literally,
sees the
yeah.
ambulance, then they move out of the
Yeah.
way. You kind of feel like
feel like very special.
especially when there's like traffic on like the Beltway. I just ride on the shoulder,
Oh really?
go all
Oh
the way
nice.
up. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
What about you? What's kind of a crazy story?
Yeah, have? I'm always so bad at. I actually.
It's hard to remember them
I'm
all.
so bad at remembering them. Before I came tonight, I knew this question was going to come, and I asked my brother Nick. I was like, "What is a weird one I told you about?"
Yeah.
And he reminded me of this one call. We get woken up at like 5 in the morning for an auto accident, and we're driving down the road. It's not far from the station. And the PD actually called us, and we show up, and there's just debris. It's kind of a wooded area, and there's just like papers, car parts, just debris everywhere. Yeah. And then there's like a small embankment, and a guy surrounded by cops with handcuffs. Oh. And we're all looking around, and we're like, "Where's the car?"
Yeah.
Wait, did you look up?
Yeah, this dude flew like 100 feet into the woods. And literally, all of the trees were cut, like 6 feet up, because there was the road. The road curved, and then like an embankment down, and the car just went straight as if there was a road.
Into the trees.
Yeah, into the trees. So I walked down to the guy, and so PD called us for medical services for the guy that was driving, and I walked up to him, and I was like, "What happened?" And he was like, "I ran from the cops." And the cops were right there, and I was like, "All right, I guess that sums it up."
He flew from the cops.
Yeah,
That's really what happened.
So this guy was driving with a suspended license at 5 in the morning, because that's what you do if you're in Manassas, apparently.
Yes.
And
Manassas. Oh my God.
and he tried to run from the cops, and if you try to run from, don't spread this around, but if you try to run from Prince William County cops, they will let you go. And this guy probably figured that out.
Good to know.
He tried to run from VSP, from Virginia State Police. They were the wrong ones to run from. So they chased him all the way from Manassas down to Haymarket, where my station was. And so, he wasn't making headway on the highway, so he went to tried his luck on the back roads, and it did not work out.
Oh my God.
His car was just sideways in just the middle of the woods.
That's
and
really funny.
he had like a scratch, and that was it. Yeah.
Very, very
Dude was
lucky
fine.
guy.
I was like, yeah, there's
Oh my
broken
gosh.
glass everywhere. It was actually, funnily enough, they're building a new Catholic church in Haymarket. St. Catherine Drexel is
Catherine
right
Drexel,
in front of that church. So when that opens, if you go and you look left, and there's just a gaping hole in the trees.
The car is still
The
there.
car
right?
might still be there for all I know. Yeah. That's one nice thing about being a firefighter. You're like, oh, no medical services, I'm out of here. Like,
Okay.
there's a big mess, but that's somebody
Yeah,
else's job.
I'm usually there for a while.
Oh, really? That's funny. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing. That's quite wild. I'm sure you have even more. So,
Yeah,
okay, let's
gosh,
get to some
jogging
questions.
memory.
I saw Cody up here first, and then his neighbor next.
Okay, great. Is this on?
I don't know if it's on.
Yeah,
Is this
there-
on?
there-
It's on.
you're good.
Hey, thank you both so much for coming back. Thank you for coming to talk. So, physical fitness obviously plays a very big role in firefighting. What are some ways that you would recommend for anyone here who's interested in going into that field to stay physically fit, to be fit enough to do the job that you do?
Good question. Yes, it's definitely a big part of it. It's, in my opinion, it's very much a two-part thing. You have to be strong, and you have to be very cardiovascularly sound.
Yeah.
Like, you need to be able to run and lift heavy things.
Yeah.
Which is sometimes it's kind of a hard thing to do both of.
You often are doing them at the same time.
Yes, but everything you're doing when you're fighting fires, you're wearing 60, 70 pounds of gear.
Which
So-
is hot, especially in the summer.
Yes,
Like
and
you're losing
sweating
liters of water.
Big tip: do not do fire school in the summer. Oh my gosh, not a good idea. But yeah, and then everything you're carrying is also really heavy, and then everything you're doing requires a lot of strength, and then just to be able to function when you're breathing air, when you're breathing out of the oxygen tank requires a good cardiovascular system. So it's kind of a combination of like, you should be running, you should be doing something like that, and you should be
Lifting weights is definitely huge.
Yes.
I mean, like I mentioned before, I'm a big hiker. I like hiking, but that's a huge part of the training that they do a lot of. You do a lot of stairs with gear and carrying a lot
Lots
of
of stairs,
stuff. So
yeah.
I know of a lot of friends of mine who, and I did some of this too when I was kind of training for the academy, is like get a weighted vest and get used to wearing that when you're working out, especially doing the Stairmaster. Like the more you get used to going up and down stairs, like that was a big part of our academy.
Yeah,
We had to do
same, yeah.
like tons and tons of
Tons of
stairs,
stairs. Oh,
just
yeah. Towers.
just towers. Yep.
That's how they
and
punish you.
Oh,
Maybe.
well, we had it as a requirement during EMT school. We had to just do 343 of them for the 9/11 firefighters that died. It was like you had to do like 343 of them at some point during EMT school, but
Okay, yeah, we
or
did-
it would be punishment.
we were-
They'd be like, all right,
yeah.
you're doing 10 towers.
Yeah. Yeah, we did that. I was in recruit school on 9/11. We did it then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I will also add to that, the type of cardio you're doing is also,
It makes a difference.
it's slow but steady. Like you're not typically running in gear, and they actually kind of, they tell you shouldn't, though a lot of people will anyway. It's
not good for your knees.
Jacked up. Yeah, but you're wearing all that gear. It's terrible for all your joints. So the type of so it's like you need to you need to be in shape, but it's not like doing sprints. It's more of a marathon, sort of. It's a very unique kind of shape.
yeah. Okay, awesome. Next up here, Sunny, as well. You guys have so many questions. Should have stopped talking a long time ago.
Hello. Yeah, thank you guys for coming out. So, I have a few questions, actually, so bear with me, people. But you talked a little about having the personality for it being a big part. And you guys went to, you did say that.
I did.
Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. You guys came to Christendom, so you learned about like the 16 personalities and stuff. Would you recommend that line of work for an ENFP?
Can you remember all the way back
yeah.
to
I know what an ENFP is. My roommate is an ENFP.
Very
She's
technical
wild.
question. I'm sorry.
I don't remember. I don't remember the
Yeah.
Myers-Briggs stuff.
I've been told by a lot of people that I'm too nice to go into rescue operations or military.
I don't think you can exclude any type of personality from the job. It really kind of depends on your heart. Like if you are, this sounds kind of weird, but like, what's your love language? Like if you're a person of like who's like an active service, or you want to do something that helps somebody else, it kind of doesn't matter like what your Myers-Briggs is. Like as long as you can work with people and you want to help people, then you would be great. Actually, if you're really good at talking to people, then you're probably really good at patient contact. Whereas somebody who's like an ISTJ or someone who's opposite of an ENFP, who might be a little bit more like rigid and standoffish, might not have the best patient contact. But they might be like really diligent about doing the other work. I don't think that personality. I don't remember what context I had mentioned the personality. I don't think that there's only one type of personality that's best suited for it. Sure. I think anyone could do the job if you really put your mind to it. You have the determination and the diligence, and you want to, if you have the confidence to make it through, and yeah, if you have that desire in heart.
Yes, I agree to it, although I will kind of add a caveat. If you, I'm trying to think about the phrases properly, but in the fire service, you are constantly around people. That is something that's like, if that's something you don't, that's not kind of a draw for you, or like it's not necessarily going to be a reason you can't do it, but that will be challenging.
It would be challenging
if it's something that
if you're an
not
introvert
comfortable
or
with.
something.
Yeah, if you're, I mean, you'll spend your entire shift with people, whether or not that's going to be your crew or the patients that you're dealing with. Like you're going to be around people all the time, and the firefighters that aren't, or at least in Prince William County, the firefighters that aren't kind of up for that are always kind of seen as different because they're standoffish, and everybody else is always talking. Like just hanging out and talking kind of ends up being a big part of the fire service.
Yeah.
All right, give us one more question, and then.
Yeah, I guess
got a
this
lot of
one's a
other
little bit more practical. You said that you did have to have surgery and have like something implemented. I just broke my collarbone and had surgery on Friday.
Dang.
And had something implemented. So you're telling me that won't. What are maybe some negative effects that might come from that? And will I be able to perform to the best ability in a military or rescue job with that?
I mean, it really depends on how well you heal. and how well like you're able to bounce back from that injury. Because I mean, I don't know how bad your fracture was or what kind of surgery you had to have, but you should be able to regain that strength and be able to, like to get back to a certain level of normalcy with your strength. If you put in the work to do your physical therapy, and that is a huge thing that is very important post-operation, is to do your physical therapy and to build back strength. But really, I know of many people, and actually a lot of firefighters in the job get injured very quickly or very easily because of the rigorousness of the type of work that we do. It's not uncommon for people to get injured on the job, and that's something that people have to know going into it, that it is a dangerous job. It's actually, a lot of people can develop lots of like joint problems or cancer. Because you are surrounded by a lot of toxic things, especially like the smoke and the combustible materials that we deal with. It's not an easy job in that sense physically, but as long as you put in the work for yourself to be able to bounce back from your surgery, I think you could do it. I don't think you can. I don't have any doubts that you can do it. But it's really kind of up to you and how much you, really develop and train, get yourself back into 110% to be able to give it 100% in the job. There's somebody back there. Way back.
Thank you for talking about your experience.
Yep.
So, for context, my dad is a career firefighter in Montgomery County, Maryland.
Nice.
And
MoCo.
So true. And I was curious because I know in the last couple of years in Montgomery County, they've implemented, like, you have to have the COVID vaccine in order to apply to become a career firefighter. So I was just curious if that's also the case in Nova Fire Department.
Is that still the case?
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
I believe in Christendom County that you did have to for a certain period of time, and then they've gotten rid of it before I started.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing with Fairfax. I think around the time I was applying, they were still requiring it, but I applied for a religious exemption. That was my preference. And by that point, they were just kind of lifting the mandates with that. So I think now it is no longer a requirement in Fairfax County. Thank goodness.
Great question.
That is a great question.
We have somebody up here. Who else has a question?
Yeah, any other questions?
Just want to make sure we hit as many people as possible.
Pick our brains.
Okay, so I heard you mention the acronym, was it CPAT?
CPAT.
Several times. CPAT. And I've pieced together a pretty good idea of what that would be, but what does it stand for specifically?
It's Candidate Physical Aptitude Test.
Yes. That's right.
It's I always get it mixed up with CPAP. The CPAT
yes,
and CPAP.
Yeah, I did
because
the exact
CPAP
same
is
thing.
continuous. What is
continuous
it?
positive air.
That's sleep apnea.
Yes, for CPAP.
CPAT.
Continuous positive air. Yes.
Yeah, it's one of the things in EMT. One of the interventions an EMT can do.
Okay.
The CPAT. Yeah, the CPAT is it's just an acronym for the aptitude test.
The CPAT, fun fact, is probably going to be the only step of the application process that's going to be standard across every department.
I thought it already was.
It is. It's the only one.
Oh gosh, they said it will be. Gotcha.
No, yeah. All the other parts of the application process are going to be like similar, but not exactly the same.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
But the CPAT, like you can pass the CPAT in one department and then just have a.
Yeah, they recognize it.
And then you just have a certification and you passed it, and you can bring that. That's good for like a certain amount of months or whatever, and then you can just bring that to a different. If you're applying to a different department, you only have to do it once.
Okay, that's helpful. Other questions? Okay. Well, thank you all so much for coming out, and you guys were both so quiet most of it until the thing fell over. I did notice that.
I did not even notice it. What fell over?
But also, I was very
Those
just
white screens.
into what you all were talking about. I barely knew that they were here. So
gosh,
thank you all so much for your time and attention. Please give them a huge round of applause.
Thank you.